What if you could silence the noise of the world and access inner bliss? What if you knew the shining formulas for overcoming the enormous challenges that every soul faces? Welcome everyone, I'm Shakti Durga. Mystery School podcast, Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life, will explore the ancient wisdom of the East and West, sharing stories and music, channeling light beings, scanning the unseen world, learning useful spiritual tools, and bringing forth peace, love, purpose, and abundance. In Mystery School, we co-create and share sacred frequencies, sending ripples of love that empower new possibilities to ignite our spirits, overcome obstacles, manifest our most inspired life, a life where your challenges become doorways to your deepest truth, where you anchor yourself in clarity and presence, not from your pain, but from the doors it opens into the deepest wisdom that's already within you. Your path has already begun. It's right beneath your feet. Let's illuminate that path together.
Welcome, everyone. You know, I'm Dr. Pat. I get to take this beautiful journey with the most incredible person, Shakti Durga. And one of the things that I just want to point out is, you know, for me, I resisted spirituality as if it were walking in a briar patch. And sometimes in life, you've got to have a wake-up call. And I did. And I've had several. But it doesn't help us shape our consciousness. It may punch a hole in the matrix, and it gives us an opportunity, but I'm not the expert on this. Shakti Durga is. Shakti, look, shaping our consciousness. Can I ask you a question? Are we ever done?
Hello.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
It's like, are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
I think whilst there's life, there's more to do if you're up for the adventure. I think that's the way I'd put it. And there's two ways that the divine moves us forward. In Sanskrit, they're called Hara and Hari. And Hara, well, let's start with Hari because it's more fun. But yeah. Hari is where we allow the bliss to guide us, that we go into these beautiful states of connectivity and love and joy, and we get elevated and lifted through connection and communion with the infinite, which is something that once you've experienced it, you want it again. It's a magnetic pull into bliss. So that is one way you can do spirituality. And the other one, Hara, is more like getting whacked on the backside by a big stick. You know, it's it means that, you know, we're a bit off course and the universe is doing an intervention. And so that intervention is not because we've done anything bad. It's only because our soul has an agenda for our growth and development. And if we're not feeling ourselves, if we're not really listening to ourselves, and we get too busy and we're worried about everything going on out there and worried about everyone else and ignoring what our deepest calling is and our deepest truth, then if that's happening, then we're going to probably become imbalanced. And because of that, the universe will go in some way or other to bring us back into balance. Yeah. So as I've watched, you know, thousands of people over the years come through our programs, I've noticed that that knock can take the form of maybe an accident that seems random, but actually is soul speak for, hey, hi, we've got some opportunities for you now. Would you like to come on this other journey that your life was actually meant for? Other things can do it too. A disease diagnosis is a wonderful way for people to suddenly focus their attention on something other than what they have been focused on. And how often do you meet people who've suddenly been told they have cancer, whose priorities completely change within a few days? Because they weren't really in the flow of their soul's agenda. and they were dispersing their energy, giving their potency away and really becoming very busy for not much bang for their buck, really, in terms of how they're living their life. So, yeah, the universe does hari or hara with us. And so there's a way in which we can make spiritual development a lot more ease and grace. And that is probably to cooperate a little more with the process.
Yeah.
And the wonderful thing is the divine's given us so many different pathways that all we've got to do is shop around until we find something that seems right to us.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about this is, and I want to focus a little bit on the work that you said yes to for a minute, if we could.
Sure.
Because the message that is so clear to me for our audience today, and you're going to really explain this, but as you always do so beautifully and so well, is, are you having a seismic consciousness eruption, or is it an aftershock? And what I mean by that is, right now, sometimes you hear the ground tremble a bit. And because we may not be studying the things that you teach in the mystery school or the multifaceted things that you do teach, because once people follow what this journey could be like, and I say teach because I didn't wake up one day like this and pop out and have, are able to have a conversation. That's not what happened. But if we can understand what we're talking about here today, then the awakening, we will be able to know it, feel it, probably before the actual Hare Krishna people picked me up off the sidewalk in New York when I was 17 years old. But let's talk about this and how is it we can awaken to our full potential. And I want you to also talk about what you do in the mystery school to help people. I don't know about you, but there's a part of me today that learned something enormous. I think it was in one of your books I was reading that literally turned this around for me about 2 weeks ago. But we don't have to struggle every day, or do we?
Look, I think that because we're here, we're not here for the divine to come into our little bubble of how we think the world should be. We're actually here to expand our awareness into how the divine would have things if the divine were living our life with divine consciousness. So the divine is living our life actually on the inside, and yet the bubble of Maya that comes with our ego personality is given free will, and we can choose all kinds of things in our life, and some of them are good for us and some things not so good. Basically, when it comes down to it, there's a few golden rules, I think, with spirituality, and one of them is do unto others as you'd have done unto you. So that's a starting point. But I think also, if it brings you into separateness, you haven't got the whole story yet. So if you're looking at the world and judging and going, oh, those terrible people, look what they're doing, and there's plenty of good reasons to be like that, really. I mean, you'd be a bit of a sociopath if you didn't think there were terrible things going on in the world right now. So there are. But why has the divine presented you with those things? It isn't for no reason. It's because there's something in it for us to learn, and something to learn not just about those people, but something to learn about ourselves and our response to those people.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to be kind and loving when everybody else is kind and loving. But when people aren't kind and loving, it can be much harder. Now, I'm not for a moment saying love is always about, chocolates and roses. Love sometimes involves discipline. Sometimes it involves saying no as well as saying yes. But there's something about the energy with which we come to be with other people, whether it be in our personal domain or on the wider social and collective domain. There's an attitude in the heart as to how we perceive people.
Yeah.
And when we go straight into judgment and we vilify and demonize others, we're missing the lesson. So we're sort of at the starting gate, but the universe will sooner or later have to go into teaching mode for us to get it. But if we instead be like spiritual detectives and go, okay, so how can I utilize this situation for my own growth? How can I look at the relationship that I'm building with these people I don't even know? I don't know these people, and I'm busy judging them because I don't like the way they talk, or I don't like some of the things they say. Fair enough. But where is that quality in myself? Like, what is the quality that I'm actually seeing in that person? Is it arrogance? Is it not caring? Is it, I don't know what it will be, but everybody's got their list of things they can't stand when they hear people speak. And then we have to look for our inner version of that. Where is that little piece in me that could do with bringing to the light and refining? Because if we can say, I'm never unkind, or I would never be thoughtless about other people, you can pretty much guarantee that you are actually asleep to that aspect of yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're all everything.
Yeah.
We're everything. We're all the beauty. We're all the cleverness. We're the humor. We're the love, the joy that we see in other people. That's in us too, even if we can't see it yet. And all of the negative things, that's in us too. It has to be there because we're human. But we want to bring it into consciousness and then not let it control us. Mm. And you generally find that people who say, you can always rely on me, will then be the person who has 5 reasons why they couldn't show up this day. You know what I mean? But they would swear they were 100% responsible all the time, because they can't allow themselves to see where they're being irresponsible. They couldn't stand that. So they kind of project it out there somewhere and it disappears from their awareness. And so, yeah, these are the sort of foundational areas that we look at in Mystery School of trying to be responsible for our responses to life. You can't change everything, but you can change your internal dialogue about things to a more useful place. And it's a much longer discussion, actually, Dr. Pat.
It is.
But this is hopefully just a starting place for the conversation.
Yes. I brought it up because we're going to talk about the chakra system. And the reason I brought it up is because I want you to walk people through something that they hear about but don't understand. Yeah. Now, for me, I went to a class, and part of the, I'm sorry, this is going to seem silly, but I think you'll understand. I went to the class, and at the end of the class, each of us had to do some art around how we saw the chakra system. Well, I did the art. It's behind me. It's different glass pieces that represent the chakra, but I would never put them up, because when I brought them to class, when the instructor looked at them, they weren't very pleased. Oh. Because I didn't know that I'm not supposed to have them separate or something, but let's talk about them, because the piece, I know you're laughing, but it's true. I want to demystify this for people because there's so much power if we understand the vibrational element of the chakras. So let's talk about the heart, because when people looked at the diagram in the back, they immediately went to the one to the side of my head as the heart, and actually it's not. And so I want us to all to understand how the energy of this ancient wisdom works. But let's understand the heart. Our spiritual development about the heart is so hard for me to even ask you about. But your answer in the way we respond to things was important. So I want to spend a few minutes, and then you're going to bring us full circle.
Okay. The heart center is the consciousness of connection. And so anything that equals connection, such as compassion or love, will have its home in the heart center. And people in ancient days were aware of this, and so they would structure their education systems in a way that prioritized how do we come into communion with each other? Whereas, as I experienced education and watching my children being educated, there was some of that, but there was much more about I'm an individual, I'm separate, I'm in competition with you, I have to prove myself to be better than you, or I'll feel not good enough. And that's a different kind of consciousness. And, you know, that too can get stuck in our energy field. But basically the heart chakra is supported by, there's a whole 7 energy centers, and the heart is only one of them. It's very supported by the crown chakra, which brings in higher frequencies of energy from other planes of existence and from people who've already mastered life. You know, they call them masters, sages, rishis, gurus, whatever the terminology you want to use. We can connect with them on an energetic frequency level, and we can connect with the energy to bring forth the energies of bliss and love and joy, and they come down through the crown chakra into the heart center. And as that occurs, there will be a feeling of bliss and a feeling of well-being and connectedness, deep relaxation within the body. And so for the heart center to be able to do its work, it needs to be supported by the chakras below it. So we start with the base chakra at the base of the spine, which supports our basic security. And without feeling secure, it's pretty hard to do spiritual practices which will move you into love and peace, because you're not even secure. You know, if your suburb is being bombed, it's going to be pretty hard to do spiritual practices, although God help me will probably come out of your mouth naturally in whatever your language is, in whatever your tradition is. But anyway, so security is one bag of consciousness that we have, and we have our fears, we have our strengths, we have the places we're quite courageous, and we have places where we're actually very timid. And so over time, we can grow the different strengths of each of the chakras. And over time, you know, we probably don't have time to go through all of the chakras today and what they all signify, but each one gives us access to a form of consciousness. So if security is in the base, the sacral chakra is more about creativity, and what do you do with emotional energy? How do you create with that? How do you utilize that in sexuality, sensuality? How do you raise your children? How do you be with your emotional energy and so on? And then we have, you know, the solar plexus area, which is about digesting anything, food essentially, but how do you digest life? How do you digest the things that people have been saying to you? How do you digest what's going on in the world around you? Some people just have chronic indigestion the whole time, and it's just impossible. I look at the world out there and I think it's crazy, and it makes me angry, it makes me wild. Well, over time that will weaken the solar plexus energy, because all we're doing is judging what is. We're not trying to work through into a higher consciousness around that thing, and we're getting stuck in our vibration of separateness and judgment. So when we do that, we shrink the energy center, and when we can work through the challenge that each chakra brings us, in this case digesting not just food but life, the chakra grows and becomes very strong. So each of the chakras has a purpose, and the more we utilize the chakras, the more that chakra will grow in the matrix of how we look at consciousness and how we respond to things. A simple example is if a person has a very enormous sex chakra, they're probably going to have a very enormous libido and be focused on sexuality if they're not utilizing their energy for spiritual purposes to raise the energy up through the body and feed the higher chakras in the head. And so that's one of the reasons that a lot of spiritual pathways tell people to practice sexuality in moderation rather than abandon, you know, because there's got to be some energy that does not get utilized in sexuality that is able to rise up through the body and feed and nourish the upper chakras, because this is the source of the energy that we utilize. And conversely, if somebody has an enormous ajna chakra, this one, that's the center of our intuition, that person's likely to be highly intuitive. they're likely to be able to see beyond what other people can see, like the shamans of old who could see, the boats coming from Western people, whereas the ordinary people couldn't see them because they didn't have a framework for very large ships out there, So there's stories about the shaman being able to see those things. That's because their ajna chakra is very developed. So some people just have very large upper chakras and some people have very large lower chakras. And if the upper chakras are very large, they probably have a lot of hardware so that they can utilize spirituality and they can perceive spiritual things. They might be able to see angels or hear the voice of the ascended masters. Whereas someone with small upper chakras probably thinks that the only thing that's real is the physical world, because their lower chakras, which are more attuned to the physical world, are the stronger ones.
Yeah.
So I think that's, there's a lot of people in the world like that at the moment. So spiritual people who are developing the upper chakras can be ridiculed by people with large lower chakras because they seem like they're ungrounded or they seem like they are being preoccupied with things that aren't real. But they're only not real because those other people can't perceive them.
Yeah. And, this is part of a system that is so beautiful. And we'll talk more about this because this is a manifestation of life. Now, today, I want to tell people, Centers of Consciousness, please tell people how to get the book. And then you're going to bring us full circle with the beautiful, beautiful mantra, right?
Centers of Consciousness is a program that runs pretty regularly, and it's based on my book, Ignite Your Spirit. And both are available right now, and people can have a look at that on the website shantimission.org. In the minutes that are remaining, I thought we might just use a Saraswati mantra, Om Aim Saraswati Namaha, because it helps us attune to higher consciousness. So just close your eyes and relax. Put your hand on your heart to center yourself in the consciousness of connection. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. 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 And breathe in the vibration of the mantra and let it pervade your whole body. And with the out breath, just breathing calm out into your world.
Shakti Durga, everybody. I want to make sure people know that they can find almost everything about you, the classes, the books, everything at shantimission.org. Is that the best place to go right now?
Good place,
okay.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to find courses, they'll be able to find other tools, information that's available to them.
Yes.
This is the moment of transformation.
Yeah.
And I think each of us have had to learn some tools.
It's easier if you do.
It's no kidding. Thank you so much for everything, Shakti. Thank you so much. To all of you out there will be more shows like this because you have asked, how do I shift? How do I not respond? How do I deal with an abusive relative? So the bottom line to all of you is this is how, and this is what we'll continue to do to support you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining me for Mystery School, Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life. Be the detective of your spirit and soul and seek the doorways to a new reality. Take one insight from today and let it illuminate your path. Visit shantimission.org to learn more about our other programs, meditations, and resources for living with ease and grace. And sign up for our free Soulful Relationships Masterclass. In this class, we'll cleanse and purify the relationship energy in a key relationship in your life. Previous students have experienced rapid transformation in their marriages, in their relationships, with family, work colleagues, teenagers, just from this one practice. And you'll have a spiritual key to successful relationships that you can use again and again. Sign up for the free masterclass at shantimission.org. And we'll be back at 3 p.m. Pacific time every first and third Monday for Mystery School. Mark it in your calendar. We'll see you next time.